In this lesson, we'll see how we can create a table in a database and insert data in it, retrieve data from it, update the data that was inserted, and then finally delete the data that was inserted. So the way you create a new table in the database is I'm using this software called DBVisualizer. So I can right click on the tables tab and I say create table. Let's say I want to create a table called weather. So table names generally start with uppercase character. Okay. And I want to track the weather in different cities at different times. So I add some columns here. Let's say the column name is the city of the city, and city is a varchar, and the size of the city, generally city characters 25 characters should be enough, and it cannot be a nullable field. It has to have some value to it. Then we'll add a name called which state is that city located in. Let's say that's also a varchar, and its size is, the state is 20 characters, and that is also not nullable. And then I'm adding a column called the day of the year, which is a date column. So I choose date. I don't need to specify the size for this, and it is not nullable. Then I add another column called temperature, high temperature or high in Fahrenheit, and this one I just want it to be an integer type and is not nullable. And then I want to add one more column called low temperature in Fahrenheit, called low in Fahrenheit, and this one is also an integer value and it is not nullable. And then finally, when you create the table, at the bottom it shows you the preview of what it looks like. So if you see here, it says create table northwind.weather, city, state, day of the year, high in Fahrenheit, low in Fahrenheit. You can also copy it into Notepad and here you can see it. You can even format this and here you'll see the entire statement. So you can either execute it from here, you can just say execute the buffer as a SQL script, or execute the SQL statement at the current cursor position. So I can click on this and it says physical database acquired, 1 warning, 0 errors, 0 successful. It says command process, no rows were affected. No rows are affected because it is not creating or updating or modifying any rows in the table. The table is not yet there, we are just creating it. So it has just created the table, but no rows were updated or inserted or deleted. Okay, so go here, right click here and say refresh the objects tree. So when you refresh the objects tree, at that time you'll be able to see the weather table. Right now it doesn't show that. So just go here and press F5 or refresh the objects tree, and you should be able to see the weather table. So in the weather table, you can see all the columns, the indexes, and the triggers. In the columns, you'll see that it has city, state, day of the year, high in Fahrenheit, low in Fahrenheit. And then for this particular table, you can go to the object view, or in this buffer itself, what you can do is you can say select star from weather. So in the SQL commander, you can run all the queries like select statements, or you can run update, delete, or insert statements as well. And then you can either press this, which will execute all the statements in this SQL script, or you can just use this, which will execute the current the statement on where the cursor is located at. So I'm going to just run this. When you run the whole buffer as a SQL script, you need to end each line with a semicolon. Now you should be able to run this, and it says empty result set fetched because right now there are no rows in the database. Okay, you can comment out a line in this buffer by pressing dash dash space, and you can run one more command which says select count star from weather. Count star will count the number of rows in the table. You can either press this key, or if you see there, it says execute the buffer as a SQL script, control enter. So instead of using the mouse and pressing this play button, you can just go here and press control enter, and then it says that there are 0 rows in the table. Let's go to the object view. The object view shows all the metadata of the table. So here you can see the DDL of this table, how this table was created. DDL is specific is independent of the database, so it will run on mostly all databases, and this is the native DDL. There are slight differences between the two, and generally you can see the data in the data table, in the data tab. Right now there are no entries here. Okay, and then you can see the primary key of the table, then you can see references, the row ID, the info of the table. Okay, so let's go and add some data here. So the way you can add data is either from here, or you can use the insert command and insert data into this table. So the way you insert data is, first let's, at a time you can have only one, so let's comment this out, and I'll say insert into weather. Right, what are the names of the columns? City, state, day of year. You can see all the columns on the left side here as well. Day of year, high in Fahrenheit, low in Fahrenheit, and then it'll say values. Values is Dallas, Texas. Day of the year is 08 August 11th 2012. High in Fahrenheit is 104 degrees. Low in Fahrenheit is say 78 degrees. These are both integer values, so you need not put them in quotes, whereas these are strings, so you need to put it in single quotes. Okay, and this one you need to put it in a string, which will automatically get converted to a date. So let's run this, and it didn't like it. You have an error in this, and the error is probably city, state, day of the year. The statement needs to end with a semicolon, but each line doesn't need to end with a semicolon. So it's probably this. How do you insert a date into a MySQL? So let's do a quick Google search on this. Okay, I think you still need to use. Didn't like that. Oh, wait a second. I think this column names, they should not be in quotes. That was the error, I think. So I'm removing these quotes for the columns, and there it went. Okay. Now let's comment these two lines out. Another way to comment out lines and lines here would be slash star and with star slash. And then I want to count the number of rows in the table. Now I've inserted one row, so this count star should give me 1. There it is. Now if I want to see all the values that were inserted, I just say select star from weather. And there it shows for Dallas, Texas for 2012 0811. The high was 104 and the low was 78. You can also see this data from the object view. So if you go to the object view, right now it shows empty because we need to refresh it. So click on this and I can reload this. Right? So now the data that has been inserted, you can insert the data either by using these insert statements. Let's insert one more. Let's comment this guy out. Let's you can copy and paste this into another statement. Let's insert this data for a different date, 0815. Let's say I'll use June, and in June it was not as hot, so I'll make 194 as the high, and the low was 82, say. And I can press Control Enter, and I have one more row inserted in the database. So if I want to comment out all these lines, I'll just say go to the end and say star slash. And now let's count again, and you'll see 2 rows. And if I want to see what those rows are, all I do is comment these 2 lines out, press Control Enter, and I'll see those 2 dates and the temperatures for those 2 dates in the city of Dallas, Texas. I can also see these 2 rows by going and refreshing here. One more way I can enter the data is by pressing this plus sign here, and now I'll say Dallas, state is Texas, and the day of the year is 2011 2012 or 2011 month of November, 23rd November. The high was 88 and the low was 54. And then you go and click on the save button and it will save the data. Okay. Now you'll see that there are 3 rows. You can also check that by, you can run this query again and you'll see those 3 rows, or you can also run this query here and get the count star and you'll see that it is 3. Let's say I want to find the maximum of all the temperatures. So what I do is I say select max high in Fahrenheit from weather. So this will give me the maximum temperature, which was 104. If I want to find the minimum, I just say minimum, and that's 88. Let's say I want to find the average. I say average, and it'll get me the average temperature. Okay, so you can also insert data for a different city. So let's insert data for Chicago in the state of Illinois. The day of the year is 2012 March 17th. The high was, it's pretty cold during that time, so high was 74 and the low was 42. And then press save. I can enter one more data. If you want to insert multiple rows, you can press this double plus. That's like I think duplicate the selected row, and then you can modify that particular city. So let's change this to 2012 June 15th, and let's change this to 2012 August 2nd. The high here was 84, low was 52, 53, the high here was 94, 98, and the low here was 63, 64, let's say. And then you can hit the save button and it gets saved. And then you can go here and do a count star, and you can do a count star, and you can get 6 rows. Okay, and let's say I want to find the average temperature for all the cities. I entered this, but let's say I want to find the average only in the city of Dallas. So I introduce what is called as a where clause. So I say where city equals Dallas. So I'm getting the average temperature in the city of Dallas, which is 95. Let's say I want to find the average temperature in the city of Chicago. It should be a little lower, it's 85. So let's say I want to find the average for every city. So what you do is you give this, and you also give the city, and then you give the average where the city is, and then you don't say where city is Chicago. Here you just say group by Chicago, group by city. So now I'll get the average temperature in every city. Okay, so you need to go through the tutorial on the W3 schools to see how you can use the select statements to do queries in the database. Let's say now I want to update the data. Let's say I want to update the data. You can either do it from the object view. I can just go and change here, or let's say I want to change this to 95. So I just say 95 and press save. So you have to go outside that column and then save it. So I'm changed the high in temperature, so I'm going to change that, and it has saved it. Another way to save it is you can say with the city is Chicago, and let's say I want to set the temperature for the day of the year, which is 2012-0802 for Chicago. So what I can do here is I can say update this table called weather. Okay, and I'll say set high in Fahrenheit equal to, it was 95, so I'm going to change it to 98, where the city is Chicago and the day of the year equal to, what is this day of the year, 02. I can just copy that and then paste that here. So I'm running an update statement. So the way you run this is your where clause should select a unique row or all the rows in which you want to update that particular statement. So you say update weather, set this high in Fahrenheit to be 98, where the city is Chicago and the day of the year is this. So this was successful. Now let's go and see. It was 95. If I refresh, it should become 98. So it has become 98. So that's an update. Let's say now I want to, so we have done an insert, we have done a select, we have done an update. Now let's do a delete. So for delete, what you do is you just say delete weather. You don't have to set anything. You want to delete a certain row. So let's say I want to delete the temperature, the record for the day of the year, which is 2012-0802. So when I delete this, it should delete just one row. So here it also shows the number of rows that were updated. So when I delete it, it should show that it deleted one row. So I can just press Ctrl Enter. There is some error. Delete, I think it is from weather. So delete from weather, and this is the right syntax. So one row got deleted. Here you can see that one row got deleted. So if you go and see in the object view, this row should get deleted, right? So hit the refresh button and you'll see that it has gone away. And now if you run a count star from here, the way to comment it out is dash dash. Now I should see only 5 records. And if you want to see what those 5 records are, uncommented this line and press Ctrl Enter, and you should see all those 5 records. So here we just seen how you can create a table and run select, insert, update, and delete statements in a table in a database. I would encourage you to try out the tutorial, the SQL tutorial on W3 School's website. Okay, and that tutorial, if you just go to Google search and say W3 Schools SQL, you should see that over here. So go through all these SQL statements and the advanced SQL statements, and that should give you a good introduction to SQL. And SQL will be used from JDBC in Java, and also by Hibernate internally generates any ORM tools like a Hibernate. They internally generate the SQL. So you need to have a good understanding of SQL to see what Hibernate or any other ORM tool is doing.